I don't know if the Inokuchi family is there, but if anyone from the Inokuchi family is there, hello. Because one of my dear Dharma friends, Reverend Devin Matsumoto, uh, and I were actually ordained together. You could see there's a picture of us at our mother temple with our fresh heads, and I could not have survived our Tokudo ordination without Devin and his kindness and just so many things that I've learned from him. So, hello, Inokuchi family. Um, I think I saw Bill Wurtenberg there. Hello, Bill. I met you at one of my first MAP sessions, Minister's Assistant Program sessions, back in January 2020. I think we actually stayed at the same hotel, and I still remember very well the sharing of the Dharma we got to experience together. And it was in January 2020, and little did we know what the rest of 2020 was going to hold. And then I scratched my head even more, and the connections are there. When I shared with a friend that I got this really precious invitation to come to Watsonville, she shared with me, "Oh, I used to go to that temple because she was a student at UC Santa Cruz, and she would make the trek all the way to Watsonville." Her name is Stephanie Ibarra, if any of you might remember her. And even the my coworker, the political science teacher in my department, who I sit next to, I mentioned to him, "Oh, I'm going to Watsonville," and he said, "My very first teaching job was in the Watsonville Public Schools," and he has really wonderful stories about just the salt of the earth students he worked with. And he asked a little bit about the Buddhist temple, and I said, "Oh, it was established by, these really pioneering Japanese immigrants." And he said, "Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense because my classes were like 94% children of Latino farm workers and 6% Japanese American kids." And I said, "That's our karmic connection." And to truly blow your mind, the day that Shinseki Sensei emailed me with this very kind invitation. Earlier that day, I had just taught about California during the Great Depression, and Watsonville was one of the places we talked about. So again, like my karmic circumstances has pulled me to you. So today, I've set up a brief talk, and hopefully we'll have time for questions and answers later. And it is in keeping with our theme of Ohigan, and I'd like to begin with some reflections of the words of Shinran. And let's see, I want to minimize my view like that. And if you will please join me in Gasho of these words of Shinran, as told in the Jodo Wasan, are the hymns of the Pure Land. The light of the Buddha of unhindered light harbors the lights of purity, joy, and wisdom. Its virtuous working surpasses conceptual understanding as it benefits the beings throughout the 10 quarters. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, 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 Namanda. All right. Well, thank you for joining me in Gasho. It's always a very beautiful part of our rituals. And as Sensei mentioned, um, today's talk is entitled The Dharma of the Good Place. And it's a really wonderful show. As Sensei mentioned, you could watch it on Netflix. If any of you are fancy and have a subscription to Peacock, you could also watch it there. But this is just truly one of my favorite shows. And it's one of those comforting shows that my wife and I, we just rewatch it over and over again. There's a million different things on Netflix and Hulu, but we always come back to this show. And if you're not familiar with The Good Place, it was a NBC fantasy comedy that received incredible acclaim. You could see on the screen in front of you, it was nominated or flat out won several TV Critics Awards, Emmy Awards. It even won a few NAACP Image Awards. And its success really lay in how it focused on questions of morality, questions of humanity, and questions of the afterlife in a way that could still make you laugh. At the end of the day, this still was a comedy. Although the show was the brainchild of Michael Schur, who was behind such comedy, powerhouses like The Office and Parks and Recreation, part of the power of this show was also that, in addition to the producers and the directors and the showrunners, there was a whole cadre of philosophy professors who advised the writers on the intricacies of the moral concepts of this show. You'll see here that critics in the Atlantic magazine flat out called it genius. And, excuse me, New York magazine hailed it as the ultimate sitcom. There was even one critic who said that the show was not perfect, but still disclosed that it, quote, changed their life anyways. And so with accolades like this, let's take a moment to learn a little bit more about the plot of the show. So I do want to give you my deepest apologies for all of the spoilers that are upcoming. But as we'll see in this trailer for the show, it centers on the afterlife, but also humanity itself. And exactly what happens to this protagonist that you see here, a woman named Eleanor Shellstrop, played by Kristen Bell. She describes herself as an Arizona trash bag, and yet was born after death into this ethereal place called the Good Place. There, she is told that happiness is eternal, everyone is good, and she will spend everlasting life with her soulmate. Sounds pretty good. But as we see, she begins to believe that she might have arrived in the good place by mistake and worries that actually she will be sent to the bad place for all of the misdeeds from her life on Earth. And as the show unfolds, we'll see there were a lot of misdeeds in her life on Earth.
You, Eleanor Shellstrop, are dead.
Cool. How did I die?
Are you sure you want to hear? You were struck by a truck advertising an erectile dysfunction pill called Engorgulate. Funnily enough, the first EMT to arrive was an ex-boyfriend of yours.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
You're okay, Eleanor. You're in the good place. You are here because you got innocent people off death row.
You are my soulmate.
Cool. Bring it in, man. You'll stand by my side no matter what, right?
Of course I will.
I wasn't a lawyer. There's been a big mistake. I'm not supposed to be here.
Wait, what? Are you sure this isn't you?
They got my name right, but nothing else. Somebody royally forked up. Why can't I say fork?
If you're trying to curse, you can't hear.
That's bullshit.
Tell me one good thing that you did on Earth.
Do you have a second to talk about the environment?
Do you have a second to eat my farts?
Oh.
I can't risk going to the bad place.
Okay, well, maybe it's not all that bad. We'll ask Janet. Hey, Janet?
Hi there. How can I help you?
What is the bad place like?
I can only play you a brief audio clip of what is happening there right now.
Well, it doesn't sound awesome.
Hello. Can I just say, I love your house. It's just so teensy.
Oh, hello. I'm just a big, beautiful cartoon giraffe.
Cheers.
Condescending bench.
Okay.
30 glasses of wine and no hangover. This place rules. These people might be good, but are they really that much better than me?
Did you fill your bra with shrimp?
No. Yes. So who was right?
Every religion guessed about 5%, except for Doug Forsett. One night he got high on mushrooms and got like 92% correct.
So if you haven't seen the show already, you might think, oh, is this just a story about heaven and hell? But it's actually, I would argue, a little bit complicated. And the rest of the show focuses on Eleanor, as well as several other human beings that are the stars of the show. They include Jason, who you see in the shiny tracksuit. He's basically a very idiotic yet lovable Florida DJ who once crashed his jet ski into a manatee and died while trying to rob a Mexican restaurant. Chidi is the sober, sweater vest wearing professor of moral philosophy who is paralyzed by indecision and actually dies when an air conditioner falls on him. And we have Tahani, who is the woman you see on the right hand of your screen, who is a self-absorbed English aristocrat who craves all of the attention from all of the people all of the time, precisely because she was always living in the shadow of her celebrity sister. And Tahani died after she went to a party for that celebrity sister, and a statue of that celebrity sister fell on her. So these aren't exactly, the most upstanding people in the world, but they were born into the good place. Now, the humans navigate this good place with the guidance of Ted Danson. You might probably remember him from like Cheers or Becker or shows like that. Ted Danson played a character known as Michael, the architect, and he oversees their new existence with the existence of Janet, the woman or the person, she's not a woman, she's not a person. The individual that you see in the purple dress, Janet is a walking database that contains all of the information in the universe. So that's why she was able to play the audio of what the bad place sounded like. But after it's revealed that there was a glitch in the system, in this cosmic universe, it comes to light that two of the humans, maybe it's Jason, maybe it's Tahani, maybe it's Chidi, maybe it's Eleanor. It is revealed that two of them actually do indeed have to go to the depths of the bad place. And as a result, the humans fight to no end. They squabble, they disagree, they fight, they form alliances, they break alliances, until our hero, Eleanor, has a very, very important realization. So one day, she calls upon Michael, the architect, as well as Sean, an intriguing character who is seen as the omniscient judge of the entire universe. And when she summons them, she shares with them this declaration.
It makes sense for me to go.
Holy mother forking shirt balls.
What?
Wow. Okay. Woo! Yo, Mikey, Sean, come on out.
Is everything okay?
Right as rain, Mikey, my boy. So, Chidi and I are gonna go to the bad place.
What?
Trust me, I've got this. That's our decision. Let's hit it.
Well, what about real Ellen?
No, it's me and Chidi. Call the train.
Point of order. I don't accept this offer. The real mistakes were Jason and Eleanor.
Ga. You said any two of us. It's me and Chidi. Let's do it to it.
Michael, I just found an obscure precedent in the rules that might just save everyone.
Buzz off, Bomba John. Don't need it.
Okay.
Ready when you are, boss.
Eleanor, what's going on?
It took me a while to figure it out. But just now, as we were all fighting and yelling at each other and each one of us demanding we should go to the bad place, I thought to myself, man, this is torture. And then it hit me. They're never gonna call a train to take us to the bad place. They can't. Because we're already here. This is the bad place.
Oh, man. I can't believe you figured it out. Oh, God. You ruined everything. You know that?
And so with this realization, and again, I'm so sorry for the spoilers. Um, Set a reminder for yourself to maybe watch the show in 2 years, and maybe you'll forget all the things I. But with this realization that the humans are actually in the bad place, the humans then embark across several subsequent seasons on efforts to try to reverse their fortunes. And as a result of that, seek entrance into the actual good place. In doing so, we gain insights into their lives as humans on this earth. And although the premise might seem extremely outlandish, the show very quickly became a hit as it struck at the heart of what makes us human and how we navigate our lives, particularly what we call in Buddhism the six realms of samsaric existence. The six realms of samsara that you see in this really beautiful Wheel of Life mandala from the Tibetan tradition is a really powerful way to look at the ways that we're living our lives right now at this very moment. As you know, Ohigan is a very important holiday in Japanese Buddhism that coincides with the equinoxes and provides us a perfect opportunity to reflect on our lives on this shore of Shigan or Samsara, a world of blind passions or bonno, the bonno of greed, of anger, of delusion. But also in this world of Shigan, this world of samsara, we also have a world of duality where we create you versus I, where we create good and bad, like and dislike, young and old, black and white. But beyond our conception in this world right now, beyond our limited conception, is the world of Shigan, or excuse me, beyond the world of our world of Shigan is the other shore of enlightenment, of nirvana, the world of Higan. Now, I should note that even this division between Shigan, or samsara, and Higan, of the other shore of enlightenment, that's a duality too, right? But this duality is for our own sake, our own minds that can never comprehend a true reality precisely because we are governed by greed, anger, and delusion. True reality is vast. True reality is ineffable. And for these reasons, Higan, Nirvana, and the Pure Land are interconnected and related, and if not synonymous, with descriptions like thusness, oneness, absolute wisdom, ajna, jinen, purity, non-discriminatory wisdom, formlessness, all of these other really rich, layered, complex Buddhist concepts. But again, because our mind operates through the lenses of blind passions and our attachments to dualities, the good, the bad, the like, the dislike, we can never fully grasp that opportunities to awaken to, or at least gain glimpses of that other shore, are all around us. Rather, we continue to be mired in samsara. Traditionally, it is taught that samsara, excuse me, is a world of transmigration across different realms where one is never at peace. As you could see in this image from an important Pure Land text called the Ojo Yoshu, or Essentials for Rebirth in the Pure Land by the Japanese Pure Land master Genshin, the Hell Realm is depicted in full gory detail. All right. You could see there's cauldrons, there's people crying out in pain, there's people being gouged, right? It does not look fun at all. And the other realms, the other paths, as they're also known, include the heaven, human, animal, fighting demon, and hungry ghost paths or realms. And Genshin put it very bluntly, for our benefit. He said, quote, "The six paths are fraught with suffering. Let us seek birth in the Pure Land, which is beyond all suffering." But what does this mean for us today as we reflect on what Ohigan is and what it means for us? Now, according to the Oxford Dictionary of Buddhism, quote, generally, Buddhism tends to teach that these levels are real modes of existence. Although some forms of Buddhism, especially within Mahayana, as you see on the screen in front of you, emphasize that they are rather more like symbolic states of mind or modes of experience. For example, there was a very distinguished Buddhist studies professor at UCLA who has since passed away. His name was Michel Mara, and he wrote about the concept of hell in the Pure Land, hell as one of these realms of suffering. And he turned to the Japanese monk Kyokai, who saw hell as something that we experience in our lifetime. Professor Mara, summarizing the work of Kyokai, argues, quote, "Hell was not the ultimate sad abode to which all sinners were destined. For all those who were ignorant of the laws of karmic causation, the real hell, with all of its pains, all of its tortures, could only be this human life." That's a big change. To think that hell is not what we think of in our Judeo-Christian society, that I cut someone off getting on the freeway, like I got mad at my cat. I, didn't I didn't put money in the little white envelope and put it in the basket when I went to Oshoko. Oh no, I'm going to hell, right? It's not that, but rather it is a realm of pain and torture in this human life. So what does that hell, but also those other realms, the hungry ghosts, the devas, the gods, what do they look like for us living in 2024? And I'd like to turn back now to the good place, because in its exploration of human existence, they show with great tenderness and great humor how we all move through these different paths or realms each day of our life. As I mentioned earlier, the bulk of the show is actually focused on and dedicates great time to the humans examining their own life, being very introspective. And we love a life of introspection in Jodo Shinshu. The bulk of the show focuses on that introspection, thinking about how did they live their life as humans. And in a great twist, the humans are actually given the opportunity to return to Earth to try to live a better life. And although they succeed in some ways, it's just as clear that they move through the realms of suffering, just like all of us. In the animal realm, one is completely controlled by their base desires, particularly our attachments to sensual pleasures. And we see that in this clip where Eleanor has already realized, right, that she's probably in the good place by mistake, turns to Chidi. And as you might remember, Chidi was a professor of moral philosophy. And he tries to share with Eleanor some insights about what it is to be good. But ultimately, he actually does question her ability to get rid of or jettison her selfish ways, as we see both in her own interaction with Chidi, but also this flashback to what she was like in her human life.
Great! So you've decided to help me.
I don't know.
There's 1,000 questions. Is there a moral imperative to help you? Do I have a greater obligation to my community? Are you taking someone else's spot? Someone who deserves to be here?
Ooh, on that question, I honestly think I was just put here by mistake. Because Michael called me Eleanor Shellstrop, so he knows I'm me. He's just wrong about my overall quality level. Please help me, man. I swear I am worth it.
Tell me one fact that you know about me. I mean, we spent the whole day together. You must remember something. What country am I from?
Is it racist if I say Africa?
Yes, and Africa is not a country. I am from Senegal. Do I have any siblings? Where did I go to college?
Trick question, you didn't.
I was literally a college professor. Do you not remember one single thing about me?
Dude, things have been nuts around here. I bet you don't know anything about me.
You were born in Phoenix. You went to school in Tempe. You're an only child. Your favorite show is something called The Real Housewives of Atlanta. And your favorite book is Kendall Jenner's Instagram feed.
How did you know all that?
Because you are constantly talking about yourself. You are the most self-obsessed person I have ever met.
You should see Kendall Jenner's Instagram feed.
See, this is my fear about you, Eleanor. You are too selfish to ever be a good person.
Well, I think you're wrong.
What country am I from again?
Sensodyne.
That is a brand of toothpaste. Look, the only thing that you are concerned with is your own happiness. That's your problem.
Okay, names in the hat. Time to pick a designated driver. And the loser is... Betsy.
Wait, you never get picked and you're always the one who draws the name. Let me see that.
There's no need. Everyone here believes in my integrity 100%. Right, guys?
Give it to me.
For the record, I did that out of principle because it absolutely had your name on it.
If I check the other ones, I can figure it out by process of elimination.
We can understand why she calls herself an Arizona trash bag, right? And so even within just like these few minutes, all these themes about Buddhism are like bubbling up about our ego self, about our attachment to ego, and how our selfishness that comes from a desire to, satiate our deepest wants, right, can have great effects on others. And I'd argue perhaps there have been moments in our life, right, where we may be, okay, I shouldn't say that. I'll just use the I perspective because I don't want to make assumptions about anyone. I can definitively say in my life, there have been moments where I prioritize my desires, my wants, my pleasures, and only think about myself. So this is kind of a random example, but I'm actually pre-diabetic. And so I have to eat really healthy and I have to limit my carb intake. I also have gout for some reason, so I can't eat like, steaks and stuff, which are absolutely delicious. And so why do I bring this up? When I tested positive for COVID last night, my very first reaction was like, oh no, I have to break this news to Reverend Shinseki. I'm going to disappoint the Sangha. This is terrible. But then immediately, my second thought was, wait a minute, I'm sick, so I'm going to use that as an opportunity to eat whatever I want. And indeed, I ordered like a 2 enchilada and taco platter from the local Mexican restaurant after. And if you're wondering, yes, my stomach did not feel very good after. But anyway, I bring this all up to say that again, these six realms, they're not some far off distant place that we're cast to in the afterlife. They are something as simple as me going, I'm going to eat tacos for dinner tonight. Now, if the animal realm is based on desire, let's turn to something called the demon realm.
Great! So you've decided to help me.
And this demon realm is one of intense anger, much like the animal realm, in as much as it's driven by our attachment to the ways in which we want things to be. Things have to be a certain way. And if they aren't, Life is terrible. Life is chaos. So in this scene, Eleanor and the humans are celebrating something. It's actually a joyous scenario, right? Great happiness. They came together as humans in when they were given the opportunity to return to Earth to try to do good. They came back as humans, and they all were a part of this research project, all based to experiment what it's like to do good. And they succeeded. They did good. They lived good lives. They helped people. But all things, as we know, as good Buddhists, have to come to an end. And though this experiment brought them together, the experiment was also impermanent. And that sense of great joy for Eleanor quickly became apparent as fleeting. So let's see how she responded to that.
I would like to acknowledge the wonderful group of people who brought me here. If I hadn't decided to get out of the spotlight, if I get out of the spotlight tour and come here and join the brainy bunch, I never would have reconnected with Larry. So, to celebrate our group, I had my favorite patissier whip this up. Would any of you like to say a few words? Eleanor! Yay, Eleanor!
Nobody minds. I would like to address people on this cake, I suppose. I get that we all have meaningful lives outside this study. Well, Tahani and Chidi do. Jason and I are straight trash. But just, think about how much progress we've all made since that picture was taken. I know that what we're doing is important, and I'm not ready to stop. And I don't think you guys are either. So let's all stay here and keep it going. What do you say?
Eleanor, that was absolutely lovely.
It really was. And I'm so glad that this study meant that much to you. But realistically...
That's cool. I get it. No, you don't need to say it. I got it. That's all she wrote. Cool.
Are you okay? I hope you're not mad.
No, I'm not mad. I'm actually laughing. Because this whole study was a hilarious, stupid, pointless joke. And now it's over, so let's hit the road. I don't need you guys. You don't need me. And since you don't need me, I'm just gonna take the me out of this cake.
No, no! Eleanor, please!
Oh, sorry, the deed is done. Pip, pip, too late. Farewell to you, my liege, and a jolly good St. Ploopington's Day to all of you. USA! USA! USA!
And so again, we can chuckle, right? Like I have never been in a point in my life where I deliberately ruin a cake like that, but who knows, right? And so what we see here, again, is that fundamental truth of impermanence as something that is inescapable. And yet, we cling to permanence in an impermanent world. And the invariable result of that is suffering. When we, think about that clip, it really shows how just like in a moment, right? We can go from these different realms of existence where great anger, these fighting demons bubble up in us, even in moments that seem to be quite joyful. And as I said, even though I have never ruined a cake before, I'm not immune to these. This actually made me think about several years ago, I had the great joy of working with one of my closest friends. She was a comrade I went to graduate school with, and through all sorts of karmic causes and conditions, she went off to teach at a university in Wisconsin, have her family. I went on to teach at UC Santa Barbara, and we ended up at the same independent school together, literally sitting next to each other in the office. And she ended up moving on to another job. And the entire office, I remember, at first said, we were so happy for you because you're our friend and we want the best for you. But I do remember there was a period where we actually were kind of grumpy to her. I do remember there was a period where we would maybe say unkind things about her in relation to leaving. And of course, there's no excuse for that, but it gets at, again, how we are so governed by clinging to that permanence. And when permanence reveals itself to be a complete fiction, the anger comes out, the fighting demons come out. And related to that is the next realm, that of the hungry ghost. The realm of hungry ghosts is one of never being satisfied. Never being satisfied, right? That's me when I go to Las Vegas and I see a slot machine, never being satisfied. And as you might recall from when I opened, I mentioned there was this character that you see in front of you named Tahani. And she had everything in the world when she was a human being. She wanted for nothing. She was a British aristocrat. She was a millionaire. And yet, she craved the attention and the affirmation from others, from everyone around her, precisely because she felt that she could never, ever escape comparison to her even more famous, even more beautiful, even more praised sister, Camilla. And so as a result, she had, sensory pleasures all around her. And she lived in great misery because she was always craving, never satisfied, precisely because she was deeply unhappy living in this shadow of comparison, living in this world of unhappiness with herself.
That's what my book is about. Shedding your need for validation from others. I haven't been this upset since my good friend Taylor was rudely upstaged by my other friend Kanye, who was defending my best friend, Beyonce. First, I cleansed myself of all the worldly possessions. I gave them all to Goodwill. That's what I call Prince William. I was Baz Luhrmann's muse for a while. That was quite fun. I reached for the stars, as I said to my good friend Elon Musk. What a weird creep. Why was I friends with him?
You found this place on Airbnb?
I used Airbnb, H-E-I-R. It's an app where we swap mansions, private islands. I would say I outdid myself, but I'm always this good, so I simply did myself.
I've met a more perfect couple since I set up Drake with Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
You know, one of my shyest friends, I won't say his name to preserve his privacy, but he asked me to co-host his TV show, Anderson Cooper 360. I enjoy American football. I dated a player once, but he wasn't my type, so I set him up with my friend Giselle Bunchen.
Yeah, we got it. We always get it.
On guard! Obviously, I'd never do that in a competition. That'd be a 3/10 deduction. There are plenty of other people I could help. Like my good friend Ben Affleck. Sting, no last initial. Barbara Streisand. Kevin Costner. Bono.
Scary, sporty, posh and baby.
Johnny Depp. Mark Zuckerberg. Ryan Reynolds.
Javier Bardem. Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
It's not about who you know. Enlightenment comes from within. The Dalai Lama texted me that.
Again, complete silliness. I love that she ended with, enlightenment comes from within. And she could have just ended it there, but she said, and I know that because the Dalai Lama texted me that. And so even though we can chuckle at this name dropping, maybe there's been times in our life where we seem to want more and more. Maybe it's the validation, maybe it's the attention, when in fact that desire is covering up deeper emotional turmoil. Just to use an example for myself, which actually is just like the story of Tahani, is, for many years, I worked very, very hard to become a full-time professor. I did all the things you're supposed to, but that dream never came true. And so when I kind of realized that was not going to happen and I became a full-time independent school teacher, I was filled with this sense of jealousy at my friends who did make it to those full-time, what we call tenure track jobs. And my response, instead of just grappling with, the sadness, mourning, grief, that I was going to say goodbye to this dream of mine, my response was jealousy. My response was affirmation. And I actually would name drop the children of celebrities that I taught at this school, as if that would make people like think I'm a better person or something. And it didn't. But in fact, it just, again, deepened my suffering. Because the more I did that, the more I was less and less able to see what that deep issue really was. And so to go back to Professor Mara's point that I brought up earlier, Tahani embodies and shows that real suffering, quote, with all of its pains and tortures, could only be this human life.
That's what my book is about.
Now, let's start to wrap up by talking about a really, really complex realm that I kind of got at with the pictures of the Ojo Yoshu, and that is hell. He double hockey sticks, right? And the hell realm, as we talk about it today in 2024, isn't so much the world of fires and horned demons that Genshin portrayed in the Ojo Yoshu, but as our very own bishop, Harada Sensei, wrote in The Wheel of Dharma, quote, the realm of hell is the world of intense suffering, end quote. And we see this suffering in Chidi and his existential crisis, where he questions the nature of all life. And basically, is it worth it? Is life worth it? And so in this scene, Chidi comes off as a little unhinged. You'll notice that the title of the clip says Chidi goes insane and eats Peeps chili. And so as we see, he prepares this really, really gross stew for his students. But he then dives into different approaches to living an ethical life, to live a good life, to live a life of meaning. But what he zeroes in on is this very morose conclusion.
You put the peeps in the chili pot and eat them both up. You put the peeps in the chili pot and add the M&Ms. You put the peeps in the chili pot, it makes it taste bad. I'm gonna eat all this chili and or die trying. Anyone want any? I'm just gonna put it right down here. Come on, dip your paws in my chili. Scoop your little mittens right in the stew.
Professor, I can see that you're going through something, but exams are next week, so can you teach us anything?
All right, nerd. Want to learn something? I'll teach you something. I'm gonna teach you the meaning of life. How you like them apples? Now, over the last 2,500 years, Western philosophers have formed three main theories on how to live an ethical life. Now, first off, there's virtue ethics. Aristotle believed that there were certain virtues of mind and character like courage or generosity, and you should try to develop yourself in accordance with those virtues.
The gift will be anonymous.
Next, there's consequentialism. The basis for judgment about whether something is right or wrong stems from the consequences of that action. How much utility or good did it accomplish versus how much pain or bad? And finally, there's deontology, the school of thought that there are strict rules and duties that everyone must adhere to in a functioning society. Being ethical is simply identifying and obeying those duties and following those rules. But here's the thing, my little chili babies. All three of those theories are hot, stinky cat dookie. The true meaning of life, the actual ethical system that you should all follow, is nihilism. The world is empty. There is no point to anything, and you're just gonna die. So do whatever. And now, I'm gonna eat my marshmallow candy chili in silence, and you all can jump up your own butts.
Is that gonna be on the test?
Yes and no. And you all get A's or F's. And there is no test. And you all failed it, and you all got A's. Who cares? Goodbye. Goodbye.
Cool lecture. And cooler shirt. Feeling all right?
I feel fine. I do have a stomach ache. Why do I always have a stomach ache?
You just ate 50 pounds of chili, bro. This one's on you. Look, I know the future seems bleak, but I have a plan. Come with me. Leave that chili, weirdo.
Also, as a teacher, I feel so much compassion for the scene where Chidi has his meltdown and then the student says, "Is this going to be on the test?" Because I will be giving what I think in my mind of Bono, of my mind of snakes and scorpions, I think I'm giving the best lecture in the world. And I pose a rhetorical question. The student shoots up their hand, and I'm like, "Yes!" And they say, "GP, can I go to the bathroom?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can or you can't. I don't care." But even though we might think, wow, this Chidi guy is weird, or maybe we might feel sadness for him, or maybe we just laugh because he wore a skin-tight shirt that said, who, what, where, when, wine. I bet that we could also have great compassion and empathize with Chidi and his angst. To return again to Reverend Harada, Sensei wrote, quote, "Who hasn't fallen into this realm at some point of your life? You lose a dear loved one, or your spouse leaves you for someone else. Maybe you lose your job or face a serious illness. Personal conflicts and human relationships can be hellish realms as well." End quote. And maybe there is that temptation to feel that sense of nihilism when something so meaningful to us, from a loved one to maybe even our lives themselves, feel like they've been snatched away. And so what I'm getting at is, again, these moments are all through our lives. But as we near the end of the realms, I want to plant the seeds that our Nembutsu teachings also teach us that there is an alternative to that. Before we get to that, let's talk the human realm. And the human realm is actually very, very curious because it is where we have to confront what it means to be human. And often that means addressing, confronting transparently all the pain that we have in our lives. Now, Michael, the Ted Danson character, who you might remember, was originally seen as the architect of the good place and sought the help of the humans to, ironically, experience humanity. But this stemmed from the fact that we later learned that Michael was not an architect of the good place. He was a demon from the bad place. But there was something about Michael's, what we could call karmic circumstances, that led to a turning of the heart. What in Jodo Shinshu we call, I believe, Eshin, I think. This turning of the heart for Michael led him to turn away from his demonic ways to experience all that life can offer. But as we're going to see, from his desire to experience what it meant to be human, meant that he had to confront the folly of indulgences, the folly of pleasure, in part because that is counterbalanced by the realities of death and loss, which are things Eleanor feels in great ways as well.
God, I love this stuff. Oh, let's keep this party going.
What now, huh? Want to hit the clubs? Oh. Vegas. No. Even better. Dubai. Jeanette, make us a Dubai.
Kind of feel like maybe we should wind down, huh, bud?
No, can't do that. Can't stop moving. If I stop moving, I'll start thinking. If I start thinking, I'll start thinking about things I don't want to think about, like death. Oops. I'm thinking about it now.
Yep, thinking about death again. Oh, I know. Jeanette and I have been taking samba lessons, huh? Let us show you how to do it. Come on.
I think Vicky bought his excuse, but we need to snap him out of this. Which one of these confusing French books will make him normal again?
It's not that easy. I mean, emotionally, he's all over the map right now, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I don't think this can be solved with a book.
What's the big whoop? I dealt with death and I was fine.
Were you? I mean, you never had one moment where you were freaked out by the permanence of death? Never one moment like that.
Hey man, you got toothbrush holders?
Sure. Yeah, right over here.
What's this? Who has 4 toothbrushes? Like Bill Gates or something?
No, that's like for a family.
Family? Like a whole family and their toothbrushes all together? 2 slots for the parent toothbrushes and 2 slots for their kids?
Yep.
So the parent toothbrushes can be close to the kid toothbrushes and watch over them. They can all talk about their toothbrush feelings, and they can hold their little toothbrush hands when they're sad, and make sure no harm ever comes to their little bristles.
Sure. I mean, you need a Kleenex?
Thank you. Sorry, I'm so embarrassed. A family pack?
And so, even though, again, it's ridiculous, right? I hope I'm never in a place where I will start crying into a plunger at a Bed Bath and Beyond. But we could see that for Michael, who is trying to experience humanity, and for Eleanor, who is in the throes of experiencing humanity, that is to say, the sadness of confronting the impermanence of life, right? She's sad over the loss of her family. That gives us insight into part of the realms of suffering include, things that just seem completely natural to us. It is natural that we feel sadness. It is natural that we do that. And so one reason that I really, really like these 6 realms of existence is to say that, we're not like bad people. We're not evil people in the Judeo-Christian sense. We're not sinners for feeling these things. We're actually human. And as I mentioned earlier, that turning of the heart is when we experience that full depth of humanity. And when we are at that lowest depths, we we have the opportunity to gain glimpses of something bigger, right? In other words, to be human is to experience the full range of emotions. And this space is ideal for the practice towards gaining glimpses of the world of enlightenment, our true reality, because that range of emotions allows us to feel greater vulnerability. And that greater vulnerability can help us turn our hearts towards feeling the embrace, the grasp of great compassion, of great life that we call Amida Buddha. So the final realm that I want to focus on is known as the heaven realm, or the realm of the gods, which ostensibly, from the name, sounds like perfection. But as we're going to see, it is far from it. Now, in this scene, this will be my last big spoiler alert. In this scene, the humans, hooray, finally make it to the actual good place. Wow. And they expect a world of pure bliss, pure perfection, pure joy. Chidi even gets to meet one of his philosophical heroes, Hypatia of Alexandria, who you see portrayed there by Lisa Kudrow. You might remember her from Friends. But Hypatia shares that precisely because life is perfect in the sense of her own bonno, that is to say, she feels that life is perfect through the lenses of her blind passions, but not actually the world of enlightenment itself. This good place actually becomes quite boring. It becomes quite meaningless.
Wow, this milkshake is incredible.
Right? This is how I spend most of my time. Sitting in beautiful places, drinking my milkshake, slowly peeing into my pants, which instantly evaporates and leaves no trace.
Sounds fun. But didn't you want to tell us how we're all screwed?
Ah! Damn it! This is the exact problem. On paper, this is paradise. All your desires and needs are met, but it's infinite. And when perfection goes on forever, you become this glassy-eyed mush person.
No, because Patty, no!
Yes, I'm telling you, I used to be cool, man. I studied so much things. Art and music and the one with the number piles, where I'd be like 2 and you'd be like 6.
Math?
Yes. And then I came here, where time stretched out forever. And every second of my existence was amazing, but my brain became this big, dumb blob.
So we finally make it into the good place and now we're just gonna become zombies? Why haven't you told anyone about this?
About what?
Dude!
Damn it!
We have to find the others, right now.
But there's math on my shirt.
Come on!
Is it an S or a math?
Have you seen Eleanor and Chitty? There's something very wrong with this party, and it's not.
So that again gets at this irony, right? That the heaven realm, where all of your desires are met, is actually a type of suffering as well. Because from the Buddhist perspective, from a perspective of the world of enlightenment, it's reality just as it is. There is no desire. And so I saw an explanation online about this heaven realm that stated that, quote, while it might be tempting to aspire a rebirth within the realm of gods or celestial beings, they're so full of joy in this realm that they're unable to understand the teaching about permanent suffering in samsara, because this is still a part of samsara. In other words, without adversity, there is no sense of wanting to truly escape, truly be freed from samsara and reach and aspire to that world of true reality. If this sounds way too up here, way too philosophical, because it did for me, I oftentimes think about vacations. And I am one of those people who, like, the last day of the vacation, I'm in a bad mood, I'm so sad, I'm so grumpy. I tell my wife, like, I just want to be on vacation all the time, right? I'm sure many of us have probably felt that at some point in our lives. But if we think about it, right? If we crave and experience a never-ending vacation, pretend money is not an object, right? If we have that never-ending vacation, boredom would creep in, as Hypatia pointed out in The Good Place. That sense of wanting something more would creep in. And so part of understanding true reality, if I understand it correctly, there's a good chance I don't, is that when we gain glimpses of that true reality, it's when we're able to understand the interconnection of things. What am I getting at? The flip side, right, of truly appreciating a vacation comes from only having the grueling work in our daily lives. So what we think is going to be ideal, having this never-ending vacation, becomes kind of meh after a while, because it's precisely, our everyday routines that give us that perspective on what life is and how precious that vacation can be.
Wow.
So this brings us back to our opening quote. I've left us with these clips that talk about how we migrate in every day and every minute and every breath. We migrate through these different realms of existence, these different states of consciousness, you might want to call it. But what do we do with this knowledge, right? Are we just going to follow the path of Chidi with his chili and say, oh, it's all worthless, like, not just give up and then you'll die? Or is there something more? And I feel that Shinran's teachings gives us that something more. Because when we have an awareness of the fact that we move through these different realms, we can cultivate greater introspection to ask precisely, why are we experiencing these emotions? And when we do, we can take stock of what has been calling out to us all along to lift us, or at least show us what it's like, even temporarily, even in the snap of a finger, to be pulled out from that cycle of birth in one realm and then rebirth into another. Of course, what has been calling out to us all along is not a deity, it's not a god or anything, but it's that world of enlightenment. It's the world of Higan when we are here in Shigan. It's the world of infinite light and infinite life that we joyfully call Amida Buddha. And as Shinran points out in this passage that we began with from the Hymns of the Pure Land, the light of the Buddha is from Higan, from O Higan, precisely because it is not obstructed by any blind passions. It is pure, it is joyous, it is wise, in admittedly ways that we'll never fully imagine. And that's okay, because as foolish beings, we still receive that light. We still receive those moments, even if they, again, happen in the snap of a finger, the course of a breath, that help us see a greater reality. It is so joyful for me to think about that we receive that light shines on our path precisely as we are moving across those realms. And so I want to close by a very, very beautiful clip from The Good Place that has a very, very thoughtful message about Buddhism. It's actually directly references Buddhism. And it gets at this question that if we are on this shore of samsara, for Buddhists, what is on the other shore? What is our good place? You know, it's not a Christian heaven. It's true reality, a type of thusness where all life is absorbed into that ocean of the great compassion from which karmic circumstances led us to be emerged from and to which we will return and thus become a part of that great light, that great compassion that calls out to everyone else. So let's take a look at this last clip.
I was never good at being sad. Partly because my mom straight up told me not to be. But this is sad, man. You got a John Locke quote or a piece of Kantian wisdom you can throw at me?
Those guys were more focused on rules and regulations. For spiritual stuff, you gotta turn to the east.
I'll take anything you got. Hit me.
Picture a wave in the ocean. You can see it, measure it, its height, the way the sunlight refracts when it passes through, and it's there, and you can see it, you know what it is, it's a wave. And then it crashes on the shore, and it's gone. But the water is still there. The wave was just a different way for the water to be for a little while. And that's one conception of death for a Buddhist. The wave returns to the ocean, where it came from, and where it's supposed to be.
Not bad, Buddhists.
Not bad. None of this is bad.
I need you to do me one last favor.
Mm-hmm.
say goodbye to me now and leave before I wake up?
You can sit on that bench as long as you'd like. And whenever you're ready, you just walk through.
I'm ready.
And so I'll end there. No spoilers for that one because it is actually a very beautiful story arc that explained how those characters got there if you want to watch this show. But again, I could be totally wrong. Take everything with a grain of salt. But I, again, find so much knowledge in this show about these six realms and what can await us, right? That all throughout our lives, we are moving through realms of suffering, but with glimpses of something greater than just our own individual life. And that something greater that is more than our own individual life is infinite life. As Chidi points out, when he talks about the wave that crashes to the shore and returns to all life. Although we have a discernible beginning and end, in reality, in true reality, we are all a part of that one ocean. And so our attachments may lead us to feel great sadness, thinking that death is an end. We know it's only the end of just one form that we know. And so the other shore isn't necessarily, right, death itself, if I understand it correctly, but this way of understanding for our limited minds right now, true reality, just in the same way that true reality is manifested in that ocean. And so, as we close this Ohigan session, I hope we can have a much greater appreciation for the quirks and the frustrations and the annoyances and the joys and the pleasures and the sadnesses of everyday life that are the six paths. As I mentioned earlier, especially as someone who grew up outside of a Buddhist tradition, this is so special to me because I'm constantly reminded that these six paths and the teachings about them don't suggest that we're sinners, don't suggest that we are inherently bad people, but they are indicative of our humanity. And part of that is not just my individual humanity, but being truly grasped by the great light and the great life that is Amida Buddha. Ohigan is the perfect time to understand how, if we open our eyes, if we open our hearts, if we open our minds, our life and all life can be one. So to close, please join me in Gasho as we joyfully, gratefully say, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandab, 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 Namandab. Okay. That's it. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Sensei. That was wonderful. Really appreciated that. And yeah, The Good Place has been a very newly favorite show of mine, watching it. So thank you for sharing. Questions? Any comments or questions from you?
Yes, further, yeah.
Any questions?
I just wanted to comment that you're a great storyteller.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
COVID, it just flowed very well done.
Thank you.
A very complex subject. explained, with some humor and realistic content. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, I'm very grateful. I appreciate that. Again, if there's any teachers in the room, you got to fake it till you make it.
Yeah, Reverend Guzman, I thought it was excellent. My wife and I both watched it years ago. It was a COVID special, right? Watched it in like 3 days or something, And I really appreciate it because all the concepts you brought up, I never saw in it. I think I could go back and watch it again. I mean, I just watched and enjoyed the pure entertaining policies of it, but now I've got to go back and watch it through the eyes of a Buddhist. I never realized that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we watched it too. It was definitely we watched it at the beginning of COVID and then rewatched it through the middle of COVID. And we also rewatched Mad Men tons. So I have a Dharma talk about Mad Men as well. But it again, like I think just rewatching it so much and then like listening to Dharma talks on Sundays kind of helped me see those connections.
So one of the things that came to my mind was the sometimes we use distractions to not be able to see ourselves moving between these realms. And so distractions take us away from introspection. So can you comment on that? Is that one of the realms or is it all the realms?
I would think that it's all of the realms that we find those distractions in all of them. An example I gave earlier was me at a slot machine, for example, and it could be gambling, it could be online shopping, it could be and again, I say this all pointing at myself. It could be like obsessively following scores or something that, creates those bits of noise that again like pull us away from understanding our true self. The example I kind of talked about a little bit was this great desire of mine to become a full-time professor. And so, yeah, I distracted myself in all sorts of ways that were not necessarily healthy. But at that deepest of the lows, that maybe allowed me, maybe invited me, maybe forced me to see what was all around me. And yes, I didn't have that tenure track job, but I realized I had encountered so many lifelong friends. I encountered teachers who have profoundly shaped me as who I am right now. Um, Being what we call a freeway flyer, hopping in your car to drive to one campus to another, meant that I had, even though I was annoyed at the time, it meant I had so much time to listen on the road to Dharma talks that helped me get through the Jodo Shinshu correspondence course, that helped me eventually get to IBS. And of course, the big one is that along this path, I met someone at UC Santa Barbara who became my wife. And again, like all of those um, distractions that I thought, will get me through this didn't, but rather being humbled and understanding my true self, which is being, you know, deeply shaped by the interconnections of all life, allowed me to see that past with now a renewed sense of gratitude. That how, you know, incomparable that it was that, yeah, I didn't get a tenure track job, but how incomparable it was that forces had to align for a transracial adoptee from Colombia who's adopted by an Italian family in Philadelphia would lead that person to want to get a PhD at UCLA and would become one of my best friends. How joyous. Yeah, I didn't get a tenure track assistant professor job, but again, how inconceivable it is that you know, someone would, a woman in the Philippines just wanted something better for her and her daughter. She was a single mom and said, I could do this better. And she, picked up shop, went across the world to the Philippines, the United States, raised this kid, able to live a comfortable life because she got adopted by a stepdad that fought for our nation very bravely and then used that GI Bill to put that daughter through school for me to meet her at UC Santa Barbara to one day be my wife, right? So that sense of gratitude is just so, so humbling.
Thank you, Sensei. Yes.
Comment or a question. So being at the age that I am, the end of life issues come up, and it was very reassuring to me to think of the wave and being part of the ocean. But is the thinking of death that way, is that part of one of the realms of samsara? I mean, is that too simple a way to think about it? I mean, do we ever know then about end of life? Oh, what happens at the end of life?
Yeah, if I knew, I'd be a lot richer and could, buy a Tesla or something. But it it's tough, right? Because I with all of those realms, like we do at we do feel great suffering in those realms because of our attachment to the people we hold dear. And again, it just makes us human. And so, one thing, again, just speaking from the perspective as like a convert, one thing that has been so special to me is to think about, death and the afterlife not as you have to do X, Y, and Z to get a spot in the good place, right? And no disrespect to the people for whom that theology is important, but rather, we are grasped by a world of enlightenment. And it's so special to me, from a doctrinal point of view in Jodo Shinshu, the idea that we are reborn in the Pure Land and then immediately return to the samsaric Saha world to guide others. And so, of course, like I desperately miss my grandmothers. Um, Not to be too much of a buzzkill on such a lovely day, but my wife and I, sadly, we had to put down our beloved cat 2 weeks ago, and I miss that annoying old guy. But I'm also comforted in knowing that there are going to be moments where, they're not grandma one and grandma two and my cat Jackie Daytona. They're not going to like come back as ghosts to like say, JP, life is going to be okay. But, there are going to be moments, I'm confident, where, my reaction to a kid being a knucklehead might actually be a little bit softer because I'm channeling a lesson my grandma taught me. You know, maybe I'll be at an outdoor restaurant or something, and I will hear, someone's dog like yapping and they're so loud and I'm so annoyed. But then, feeling the warmth that I felt from my cat, Jackie Daytona, might make me think, oh, that is annoying for me, and that dog might be a lifeline for its human. And so again, are these like great moments where I've become enlightened and I say to my wife, adios, and I sail off on a lotus blossom to the Pure Land? Absolutely not. But I'd like to think again, it's that sense of over time gaining a little bit more softness, a little bit more equanimity. And I would hope, right, for me at least, that that would also include how I grapple with feelings of loss after a death.
Yes. Okay. Well, Sensei, we really appreciate you soldiering through this with your COVID illness, and we missed having you here. But we appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. So I'd like to close with Show, please. Namo Amidava. Namo Amidava. Namo Amidava.
Namo Amidava. Namo.
So much, Sensei. Please rest up, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. And yeah, get well, please.
Thank you, Sensei. Thank you, everyone from the Tri-Temples. I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And just before we close, there's refreshments, there's bentos that the ladies have made. Take, eat here and socialize for a little bit. Okay?